I the a-hole for not helping a lady at the doctor's office when she was having a hard time with her kids? Because of some arbitrary rule I don't understand, I have to go and see my therapist every month to have my antidepressant refilled. Don't know why this doctor requires me to do that. My last doctor was allowed to write a 3-month script, and I could call him if I needed help with anything. This doctor makes me come in for a whole damn therapy appointment, something I can't afford, but I have to have my meds. I'm searching for a new doctor. Anyway, rant over, sorry. I was at the doctor waiting for my appointment. There was a woman in the waiting room, the only other person. She was probably the doctor's partner's patient. I don't know, don't care. She had 2 kids with her. One looked like it was 5 or 6. The other one was small and still in a stroller, so 2 or 3, I guess? The bigger kid was playing on an iPad, and I guess the battery died or his game stopped working. Something happened and the kid started throwing a fit, screaming and flinging his arms around. I was using my own device with headphone, but I had them turned down so I could hear when the receptionist called my name for me to go back, and I could hear the whole tantrum. Couple minutes into the kid throwing a fit, the little one started throwing one too. Not sure why. I guess the older screaming made it angry? I don't know kids. I don't understand why they do things. Don't like them, don't want them, never held a baby, never want to. I tried to ignore them, but they were loud as hell. I could hear the older screaming, "She has an iPad, she has an iPad," over and over again, pointing at me. The mom gets my attention and asks me if the kid can watch what I'm watching, or maybe he can play a game, and she can give me like $1 for every 5 minutes or something. I declined. Number 1, I don't let anyone touch my devices. And number 2, I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior. The kid was screaming and acting like a fool. You don't give a kid a cookie when he throws his dinner on the wall. He'll just keep doing it. The mom starts begging me, saying that she can't calm the little one down if the older one is screaming. And could I just help her out? I declined again, because the whole kid thing, I just can't with kids. They set me off. Frankly, kids give me anxiety. They always seem sticky and dirty and loud. The mom called me some choice names and ended up taking the kids outside. I got called back to my appointment like 5 minutes later and didn't see them when I got back out. The receptionist told me the lady had to leave because she couldn't get them to calm down. And the way she told me this kind of made me feel like she was trying to make me feel bad about it. It isn't my job to babysit someone else's kids in public. You should plan for this stuff when you take kids places, in my opinion. I paid my bill and went home. Was I an a-hole because I wouldn't hang out with this kid? Now for the top comments. Hello, stranger. Can my child use your expensive technology? Not an a-hole. And you already know Mommy Dearest wouldn't pay for repairs when the kid whipped it into the wall and shattered it. He didn't mean to. As if we only get the consequences we intend. Not an a-hole. She's totally entitled to assume you'd hand over an expensive iPad, or any device for that matter, over to a screaming kid. On top of that, if it was accidentally dropped or had juice spilled and it was ruined, I seriously doubt she'd be paying to repair/replace it. She'd probably cite some lame excuse of kids being kids. You should have watched it better/know better. On top of that all, we are still in a worldwide pandemic. She doesn't know you, where you've been, who you've associated with, just as you know nothing about them. It would be pretty sucky to end up sick because some booger kid and his entitled mom demanded use of your device. I'd be surprised if the waiting room didn't have outlets. Did she forgot a charger? Asking if OP had a charger they could borrow would be far more reasonable. And still acceptable to refuse since one might not get it back. Not an a-hole. I feel bad for the lady, but yeah, you can't be expected to trust a random out-of-control screaming kid with your iPad. While your inner dialogue through the ordeal was not the kindest, a little empathy will serve you well in life. I do agree that you don't give in to a screaming kid. That just empowers the kid to do it more, do it louder, and they get what they want. Clearly, this mom had not set a lot of boundaries for the kid to escalate the situation so bad. So while she's not the a-hole entirely, she sure had made some lazy parenting choices to put her in this situation. The first instinct should not have been to ask a stranger to use the iPad. Her first instinct should be to have the kid occupy themselves, and if the tantrum started, apply appropriate redirection and discipline. Yeah, I know I need to work on my empathy. I'm having a hard time right now loving myself, let alone strangers. The isolation hasn't been good for me. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for walking out on dinner when friends ask me to leave? My group of friends made a reservation for dinner at a popular restaurant for 6 people. But when we got to the restaurant, one of my friends, let's call her Person A, brought along her boyfriend without advance notice to any of us, hence making the total number of people 7. We all know her boyfriend well and are pretty chill with him, so we thought to ask the restaurant if 7 guests is possible. Unfortunately, the restaurant was unable to accommodate 7 people as our reservation was stated for 6 people. This was also understandable as the restaurant was a popular one and packed during that night, so fair enough. At this point, Person A, who is kind of the leader of our friend group, turns to me and says, "Okay, I think you should leave so that we'll have 6 people." I was flabbergasted and shocked when I heard that. My other friends kept silent, and no one really spoke, so there was this awkward silence. I almost wanted to propose that perhaps we could have gone to a different restaurant down the street instead that could accommodate 7 people, for example. But I felt a surge of emotions and called her a heartless witch. My friends all looked at me in horror, and Person A clearly looked shocked as well. The next day, my friend, let's call her Person B, texted me and said that I overreacted and was an a-hole for calling Person A a witch in public. I was confused by this as I thought that I wasn't a-hole in this situation. But maybe I was. I'm not sure. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Someone in the comments raised a valid point. The rest of my friends were couples, aka 3 couples in the group, and I'm the only single person in the group. Person A's boyfriend said he couldn't make it when we made a reservation long ago, but he suddenly showed up at the restaurant last minute. Maybe me being the only single person in the group made me instantly the odd one out. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You need new friends. Good friends don't ask you to leave so that an unexpected and unannounced +1 can take your place at the table. I know, right? If these were my ex-friends, they would be just that. Ex-friends. Shocking that your most supportive people who aren't your family just turned on you like that. They're not your friends, honey. I can't believe someone would do that. It really disgusts me. Not the a-hole. I feel like the 7th person should bow out in this situation. 100%. I've been in this exact situation with my ex and her friends. Told everyone it was no trouble. Took myself to the pizza bar down the street for a solo guy date and met up with a group after dinner. It was actually pretty nice. These are some cold-blooded women to just stand there in silence after a random attack like that. Pretending OP's completely understandable reaction and accurate characterization was somehow worse, just confirms it. Not the a-hole. Your language was harsh but honest. I think I would have done the same. If anyone were to leave, it should have been the boyfriend who was not invited. Or you could have just all gone to a different restaurant. Ejecting you from the party was a straight mean girl move. And they did it so fast too. Update. This thread is now locked and I wanted to give some sense of closure and update. Thank you to all for your insights and comments. I shared this thread with my friends, and they told me off and scolded me for actually sharing this in a public community. However, one of the couples, who I'm closest to in the group, reached out privately to me over text and told me that they felt bad and apologized for not speaking up. But that's it, I've had enough and will walk away. To emulate the example of Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, I would say, okay, you want to ask me to leave? Okay, fine, no problem. That's all I needed. I took it personal from then on. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for feeling this way? I wasn't invited to one of my best friend's engagement party. Me, Bob, and Rocky have been best friends since we were kids. We talk almost every day and have had a group chat that's just the 3 of us for almost a decade. Bob recently announced he was getting married, and I've felt excited to have a close friend that's getting hitched. Yesterday was Bob's engagement party, and I wasn't invited. My sister openly asked why I wasn't there, and the only thing I could come up with was, I don't know. The venue is Rocky's house, a place I have been to thousands of times. Every single one of our mutual friends was there, and it was clear they were having a blast from all the story posts on social media. I definitely felt upset. After all, these are 2 of my best friends, and clearly they had vital roles in this event. I said, wow, clearly me and Bob aren't friends, and left our chat. Sometime after the party was over, they added me back and Rocky said, X person made the invite list. Bob said he didn't want to argue and claimed he wasn't really in charge of this party either. I can understand those excuses for a generic party, but when it's one of your best friends getting engaged? I felt like those were the two worst possible things they could have said to me when one of them was hosting the function at his house and the other was the literal star of the show. I said, "It's never you guys," and left our chat again. This isn't the first time something like this has happened, but it's definitely the worst time. I've raised the same concern in the past as far as how they'll conveniently forget me whenever they do anything fun, but I genuinely feel different towards them after yesterday. Bob's engagement was a big event in my eyes, and all of his close friends were there except me. I feel like a ghost. I'm not sure if I have the right to be upset or if I'm overreacting. Not at A-Hall. What the hell kind of friends are those? Did they really expect you to believe that whoever made a guest list would be mad if they invite one of their best friends? I'm sorry, but I feel like you need new friends. The whole situation sucks. What the hell kind of friends are those? In case this is a real story, in my opinion, this happens when the friendship is not mutual. Opie thinks they are best friends, but his friend may only see him as acquaintances. This is the usual case, but in this case, it's a bit much that they're in an active group chat with 3 people for decades. Most group chats fall apart after a few weeks if people aren't active. So I can understand why Opie thought they were all besties. But yes, these are not his friends. I have an active daily group chat, 4 people, which included someone I thought was a good friend, who decided to just tell me she actually didn't like me for reasons she wouldn't explain. Some people are just shitty. It hurts, and it will take time to feel better. But Opie's better off spending his time with people who aren't awful to him. Not at A-Hall. You're not overreacting. They left you out, either on purpose or by accident, and neither excuse their behavior. Even if it was unintentional, that just shows they didn't care enough to think, is Opie invited? These people are not your friends. Not at A-Hall. So then who was in charge of the party? And why did Bob not step in? If you're such a best friend to these people, why did no one notice who was clearly missing? These people are A-Halls. Not for not wanting to be your friend, but for stringing you along and pretending like they are. Now for the last story. Am I the A-Hall for defying my mother-in-law? My 7-year-old son just developed an allergic reaction yesterday after dinner because his cousin accidentally fed him some peanuts, which is something he's highly allergic to. He developed red rashes all over his body, and he told us he felt itchy. I decided to make the move to drive him to the nearest hospital, and it was at that moment I was stopped by my mother-in-law. She told me that in the midst of this pandemic, it is unnecessary to pay a visit to the doctor, and that it's putting us at risk of getting the COVID-19 virus. She said he can have some over-the-counter medication, sleep it off, and it'll be fine tomorrow. She backed her statement up with how it has happened before. At that time we weren't aware of his peanut allergy. He slept it off and he was fine the next day. Now, I've heard of stories how fatal an allergic reaction can turn out, so obviously I wasn't going to put my son's life at stake just because my mother-in-law thinks she's right. I insisted on bringing my son to the hospital, and I did. At the hospital, my husband started sending me a chain of messages asking me why I humiliated his mother by not listening to her, that she sounded logical, and I was just being overly paranoid over an allergic reaction. Apparently, my mother-in-law is now victimizing herself, calling her sisters, crying and complaining about how I went against her wishes. My husband, who is working night shift, even ended his work earlier just to go back home to appease his mother for my supposed defiance. He didn't even ask about our child, or drop by at the hospital despite knowing we were there. The reason why I'm starting to doubt my stance is because at the hospital, the pediatrician assured me that it's just a common allergic reaction, that it wasn't anything endangering. Things are looking bad on me as a result. As if I was purposefully going against my mother-in-law, because now she was right about it. Am I the a-hole here? Should I have listened to her? Now everyone's turning their backs against me. The same applies to my husband. An anecdote. 1 year as a kid, I was stung by a cow ant, type of ground wasp, on the bottom of my foot. Foot swelled up, hurt, I got better. Second year, stung again on my foot by same type of wasp. Leg swelled to my knee, hurt like hell, I got better. Third time it happened, again, stung on the bottom of my foot, my leg very quickly swelled up to my bum, and my mom took me to urgent care. I was told next time to go directly to the hospital. And sure why I wasn't prescribed an EpiPen, lol. Maybe it was just unavailable for my poor family and our lack of insurance. That next time, anaphylactic reaction may happen, and that I should avoid wasps of any kind now. At the point, allergies can accelerate even with minimal exposure to the allergen, in a scary way. Your mother-in-law knowing this has happened before without telling you makes me very concerned for the next time it will happen. She's not concerned about the child's reaction, but her own saving of face. Not at a-hole. Mother-in-law needs to get a firm grip. Maybe a pair of shoes would have been useful to you during your yearly ritual of stomping on cow ants. 100% not at a-hole. Allergic reactions, especially when they develop into full-blown anaphylaxis, can lead to a very serious situation very quickly. Your mother-in-law sounds like a classic abusive narcissist, so good on you for not reinforcing her behavior. I'd have a sit down with your husband as well, and talk about why he didn't even ask about how his son was. I'm assuming you told him and that he didn't just hear it from your mother-in-law who may have spun the story. If you told him how bad it was, then you do need a serious chat about his priorities. Your grandkid dying is less of a problem than being ignored, of course. Imagine the horror of having a daughter-in-law that puts the health of a child over your feelings. Pfft, the lady should read up on allergies. Not at a-hole. Go to an allergy doctor and have your kid officially evaluated. Maybe this time an EpiPen would be good to have handy too. Your whole family's a little too blasé about your kid. Imagine the surprised pick at your face on your mother-in-law's face if your kid's throat swelled up and your kid's suffocated. And peanuts? They should be banned from the house. In any form, for the foreseeable forever. The whole "this happened before, but we didn't tell you, it's no big deal" thing makes the fact the child has been fed peanuts again very concerning. Agree with your judgment and advice.